Hi, my name is Jack Brewer with Expanding Frontiers Research. Our organization recently obtained 162 pages of FBI records on the International Astronomical Union, or IAU. The records were obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. The IAU was founded in Belgium, and during the Cold War, it assembled global leaders in astronomy every 3 years or so at different host nations to discuss their field. The FBI took interest in the IAU and its global assemblies because of the potential security risk to having American scientists traveling abroad who might also be working in many instances on classified projects along with their regular academic work. Names mentioned in these 162 pages include Dr. Frank Drake, who was famous for the Drake equation, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and Dr. Peter Strzok, who went on to found the Society for Scientific Exploration. If you find this video interesting, be sure and check out the accompanying blog post at expandingfrontiersresearch.org. You can also visit us at our EFR Patreon or make a donation at our EFR GoFundMe page, which was recently launched. Thank you for your consideration, and let's dive right in. This is part of a 1959 FBI memo in which it was documented that a special agent approached Dr. Frank Drake. Dr. Drake gave the agent various types of information about the IAU, including a roster and information about someone that was attending regularly, that Dr. Drake had some concerns about the amount of classified information that this individual had access to. It was noted that Dr. Drake stated he would be happy to be of service to the U.S. government or to the FBI if his services were needed. It should also be noted that this was fairly common practice during this era. It was considered honorable and patriotic to assist the FBI and the CIA and American intelligence agencies if citizens, scientists, businessmen could be of help. Here we see a 1967 memo, FBI memo, that at the bottom of the page, it is specifically noted that it will be explored whether we could exploit the attendance of U.S. residents at such meetings, the IAU meetings, for intelligence purposes after they return to the U.S. from this type of conference. It's further stated in the middle paragraph. We can see that the objective is to determine whether these conferences are being utilized as recruiting grounds by Soviet bloc intelligence and whether U.S. residents attending are the targets of any type of Soviet bloc intelligence approach. This next screenshot is from a 1967 memo, and it specifically states that FBI was checking through CIA with a knowledgeable Czech intelligence source as to whether or not Czech intelligence had any interest in the meeting. This was a reference to an IAU assembly taking place in Czechoslovakia. And these are the types of records, memos, documentation we find throughout these 162 pages that I'm trying to give you a flavor of what we're looking at here. And in all likelihood, the FBI and the CIA were not only attempting to identify who was trying to potentially extract intelligence from American residents, but also if they could give them bad intelligence on purpose, or if the FBI and the CIA could also use these conferences for intelligence purposes, which we now know became pretty common tradecraft. This page represents a list that was compiled by the FBI about that 1967 conference in Czechoslovakia, in which it compiled names of people to potentially send, and we would presume in order to be briefed when they returned or to be in touch with intelligence during the conference. And we can see that here Dr. Peter Strzok was among the people listed for this possibility. We can see that various names on this list, which was several more pages than just this one, had some of the first names penciled in where some were not. And we can, it's not entirely clear immediately why that might have been. The purpose of the FOIA request initially to FBI was for records responsive to Dr. Peter Strzok. FBI responded that it had no records subject to the FOIA that were responsive, but it did provide us with the number of an FBI file in the custody of the National Archives. We then requested that file from the National Archives, and it proved to be this 162-page file on the IAU. It was responsive to Dr. Strzok because of his reference on this list, as well as another list of people that were given grant awards for travel to go to that 1967 conference. It is not currently known how much Dr. Strzok may or may not have acted as an FBI asset, as these were the only records responsive to Strzok that FBI referenced or provided. And there are a number of redacted sections and withheld pages of these records, but we do not at this point in time know how much further this may have gone with any of the people named on any of these lists, or what intelligence may have been obtained as a result of this or other IAU conferences specifically. Now, what this all somewhat reminds me of are some requests we did on the late Dr. Donald Menzel. And this is a memo that we obtained a while back, and what are hundreds of pages responsive to Dr. Menzel, held by the FBI and the National Archives. And this particular memo notes that they were considering, the FBI was considering approaching him to be a potential security informant or double agent formally. And this was due to his travels abroad, particularly at this point in time, the People's Republic of China he was traveling to. And the IAU, curiously enough, was even mentioned in these records as a point of contention with China, because Dr. Menzel was involved with the IAU, as was Taiwan, and China did not want to recognize or be affiliated with the IAU. So that posed some diplomatic challenges for Dr. Menzel and China. And as far as whether he became involved with the FBI, there is a somewhat curious 1975 memo where it's documented that Dr. Menzel told the FBI he was more than happy to be cooperative, but he also pointed out that he had already been interviewed by the CIA concerning his trip to China. I find that somewhat amusing, and I think that it calls back to what I stated earlier, that in all likelihood, the FBI and the CIA were not only interested in finding out what types of global adversaries were trying to extract information from American scientists and American residents, but also how these conferences could be exploited for use by the FBI and the CIA in similar ways as the intelligence agencies abroad were doing so. And this all somewhat brings to mind a discussion that Erica Lukes held with Dr. Jeb Card and me about a UFO conference, ostensibly anyway, in 2018 that was held in Moscow and was purportedly funded by China and was supposed to be about people interested in UFOs coming together from the 5 continents and collaborating and discussing their findings. In light of the context of the records we're looking at here about the way the FBI and global intelligence agencies might use such conferences, I would argue that it might be considered an insult to intelligence to think that China and Russia would be interested in collaborating with the likes of self-described researchers that even here in our own country we identify as unreliable narrators. So I would make the suggestion that perhaps there were ulterior motives to this type of conference and events like this. I thank you for following along and checking out the video. I appreciate it. You can learn more about these topics at expandingfrontiersresearch.org and the websites I mentioned earlier. Thank you for your interest.